Friday, February 10th, and I call this meeting of the Commissioners Court of Wichita County to order. This is a special session. No action will be taken on any items today. It's exciting to see a full house here. That's good. We've got one item that I think most of the folks are here to about, and so we'll go ahead and do that and take that one out first, since we've got a lot of folks in the public who are here on that item. So this time we will take up item number 1, which is discussions on 2020 and 2022 general elections, including any information on any particular polling locations and open records requests regarding these two elections, and the documents released by the county. A little bit of housekeeping, since we've got some folks who may not be regulars in the Commissioner's Court. If you are here to testify on this item and you haven't already signed up on the sign-up sheet, Joe, would you raise your hand? Which is right in front of Joe on the middle. If you would do that, that will allow me to call everybody up in an order that makes sense. And if we have a number of people, then we've got a time limit in our policy procedures we've got to take into account, but I think we're going to be okay on that. All right, I'll go ahead and get that list. Thank you, sir.
I'm going to get one of these.
Okay. Last chance. Anyone want to sign up for public?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll just remind everyone that we've had a handful of public comments over the last few weeks from individuals in the public on the topic of open records requests in 2020 elections and 2022 election. And during a normal public comment period on our Monday meetings, if it's not an item that's on the agenda, members of the court can't really engage with those people making public comment because of the Open Meetings Act. We're not allowed to do that. And so after a handful of times this had come up, commissioners wanted to be able to potentially ask questions and engage. And so that's why we wanted to put this on the agenda for today, so that could happen. And here we are. At this time, commissioners, do you all want to make any comments before we?
I don't have any, Jim.
Not at this time.
Okay, all right, let's say that for back and forth. All right, so at this time, I think Annie Jackson and Maurice Gauthier both want to present together. Is that correct? Okay, why don't y'all come up when you get to the podium, just say your name so we've got that on the record.
And that,
Annie Jackson.
that can raise or lower if you need to. It's
This?
Yeah,
Oh.
there's switch
No,
on
no.
the side.
I don't want to break it.
Side of it. Maurice Gauthier.
Thank you. All right, y'all, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, it says the host disabled.
Brenda,
Okay, we're just going to run through a few things that are going to lead up to the data. And I'm going to start with open records and some things that we found concerning and would like some way to rectify it. Okay, so this information is taken from the Public Information Handbook from the Texas Attorney General. And be informed of open record laws and educate employees on the requirements of those laws. Provide requested information promptly. Inform the requester if the information will not be provided within 10 business days. and give an estimated date on which it will be provided. I wanted to point those out because several of us, but on 8/23 of 2022, I submitted a request for cast vote records on and for viewing the ballots, both absentee and electronic.
Hold on one second. Just because we've got multiple elections that are part of this agenda item, will you just make sure you're telling me
2022,
which
20,
one?
oh, 2020 is what we're dealing with. Okay. On 9/22, I received an email from the DA's office that said I could view the ballots when processes and procedures had been completed. Jump forward, it's December, no word. Mr. Jackson had made the same request and subsequently ended up filing a complaint with the Attorney General's office. In early December, I think around the 2nd, Mr. Jackson received a letter in the mail from the Attorney General with a letter attached from an attorney out of Austin, and it claimed that he had been contacted by said office to schedule appointment to view ballots and that the scheduling would begin December 12th. We are unaware of any notification.
Mr. Jackson had told me about it, and so I went and scheduled for December 12th. I also told somebody else, and they scheduled for the 12th. The thing is they never informed us. I never got an email. When Annette Stanley started her position, I told her the problem that, Lori never sent an email out to all the people that requested this data, and that she should send out an email informing them that they could come down and schedule an appointment. That never happened.
So clearly
Just,
there.
let me back up.
Mhm.
Mr. Jackson received a letter from the
Attorney General.
Attorney General's office stating that we would provide access to the ballots in December, but y'all were never notified by Wichita County. Am I correct?
An attorney out of Austin
An attorney out of
had
Austin.
told the Attorney General, and he forwarded that letter to Mr. Jackson.
Was that Jim Allison, the association's attorney, you think?
If you could tell me the name of the,
Allison Bass?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So Allison and Bass sent y'all a notification that you could view the ballots.
To Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson, oh, okay,
That he could schedule in December.
okay.
Yeah, that the scheduling would start
Now I
December
understand.
12th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, very good.
yeah. So we're looking from August to December before one person got a response to that. And clearly we see that's a little bit off from the public information handbook.
And many of the people that are sitting behind us also requested this data. So
How many people requested cast vote records? How many people ever got them? How many people requested to view ballots? How many people ever got a response to schedule? So, in January, on January 4th of this year, I sent in a third request to view ballots. I received a response on the 18th. That's a little bit over time. And I was told, which I said last time, to contact Annette. I did contact Annette, which, by the way, she's very pleasant. Just want to get that on the record. She's very pleasant, and I appreciate that. So there's that issue, and the time frame with responses is very slow, non-communicative. It's not good. Really, it's not.
Now, Ann, let me ask, because during that timeline, and of course you had to show a number of hands, but triple that number, sent form letters in, and I know the Attorney General had give us some direction, and that's how Jim out of Austin had even got involved. Penny or Ann, Annette, can y'all speak on that as to what we were supposed to do? I just remember that occurring. That was prior to us changing and putting the district attorney, civil group over open records.
Oh, actually, when Ken Paxton made a ruling on KPO 411, okay, as soon as he did that, we knew that's what we've been waiting on. And so on August 23rd is when I came up, and that week they started coming in. Well, when I delivered my request, Lori was very non-communicative and said she wouldn't be handling it. She'd been directed to send them to the DA. Now that is August. Y'all didn't approve that process until October 31st.
Changing the open records, yes.
Correct.
But I just knew that we had direction on all of those responses coming in. And Mel, was that before your time actually, wasn't it?
Well, yes, this predates before I got there, and that was, yeah.
I want to make one statement though here that I don't want people to mislead that. Our open records request could have went to anybody prior to this, but they still ultimately were given, if you would have sent it to me, I would have sent it to the civil division. Everything ended up in the civil division either way, beforehand.
Okay.
So don't think that it wasn't done that way before. That new deal was just done to make it a public, one common place to everybody to send it to.
Actually, it hasn't always been done that way.
No.
It has.
Well, for the
Please.
most part, I will tell you, for the most part it has, and that was pretty much the standard policy, but you have elected officials that don't always go by what.
That's
they
best
say.
practice.
It's a bit, yeah.
That's best practice that we all tried to adhere to previously.
When, in the beginning, when I made an open request form, I gave it to the county
Speak on the
clerk's office.
microphone, please. Microphone, please.
When I made an open request form in past, I gave it to the county clerk's office, and within days it was fulfilled. Now it's dragging on months and months, because I've had ones from August, I've had some from September, had some from December, and still haven't heard from any of them. I had numerous requests.
And in March of 2022, a request for all election records and data for 2020 was made. That has never been completed, never fulfilled. We've been getting it piece by piece. We've never received all of it when we requested. That's been almost a year, what, 9 months, 10 months?
I've talked to
Yeah.
you several times about that.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Okay, so also during that time, on August 23rd, sent the request, get their incorrect records back from the DA's office on 9/1. On about 9/9, I believe, it was a Friday, 9/9, 9/10, it was the weekend before the deadline to destroy the election data had come up, the 22 months. 3 of us came up here to the DA's office because we had gotten incorrect records. And at that time, we learned that it wasn't a request that had to be fulfilled, and that the DA or the county did not have to abide by Ken Paxton's ruling. When we asked who made that judgment call, we were told that the person was no longer employed, that she had departed the week before. We asked who that was. We were told it was Ms. Jennings, who had instructed staff that that order did not have to be complied with.
We'll speak to that. So it was Attorney General opinion, correct? That's what you're referring to?
Correct.
Okay. And those are, I mean, that's currently being challenged by a number of counties in court, just as a point of further context for everyone.
Correct. But I'm also aware, which I have up here, is that when there is something that is in dispute on whether or not you can give it to a citizen, you can't tell us no. You have to tell us you need to go to the Attorney General, and you have to request an opinion from the Attorney General. If you don't want to comply and you don't like, then you have to file a lawsuit against the Attorney General. That's the process. When I received my letter back from the Attorney General, that he CC'd me and Lori on, he specifically said, Ms. Bohannon, we have not received a request for an opinion other than what I've already given. So there was no dispute from anyone in this county at that time. Why hasn't it been complied with, was the gist of the letter. Moving on, section 125.064 says that records are available for public inspection. Any documents or records used in the preparation of or prepared for use in an electronic voting system for the operation of the system for a particular election, and any documents or records generated by the system in that election shall be made available for public inspection in the office of the General Custodian of Election Records for the period for preserving the precinct election records. This right here is the request that I made, as many of us, for cast vote records. That is the form, and that's exactly what it looked like. This is the letter received back for that. These are the records that I was given. Precinct reports, cumulative reports,
And
canvassing.
most of these records are unofficial.
So we're already in 2022 for a 2020 election, and some records are official and some records are unofficial. And while we can't get official records that far into it is a little, I don't know, questionable.
What's the difference? I mean, what makes them that way? I don't know.
I don't know either, but for us to use unofficial as data, we don't want somebody coming back to us saying it's not official.
What makes them official is after they canvass.
After canvass,
After you canvass, that is what makes them official.
after the commissioner's court canvasses the
Or-
vote, or the city.
Or the
of
city
Wichita
or
Falls,
whoever
or
is
the
over that
school
vote.
district. Okay.
Anybody canvass, after anybody canvasses their election, then it becomes official. That's when it becomes official.
That was a long time to
Well,
canvass,
so-
I suppose.
Well, no, I mean, that typically happens with 2 weeks after. Why would any of these still be unofficial? Or, and how do you
What
determine
determines
that?
what's official and unofficial? How could you tell
It's
by
on the
this?
document. It's on the document up at the top.
So our canvas reports, that should be able to be taken straight off of our commissioners' court meetings or the meetings of city council or school district or whatever, whoever's election was in charge of the canvas. That should be the official record, whatever is voted on in each entity meeting. That would be the official record of the vote.
But
So
in your
that-
packet there, there's a thing for WISD.
Uh-huh.
It's marked official.
Okay?
This document is precinct to precinct, it is marked unofficial.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The reason why that isn't marked unofficial is because when I went in and printed those and we did canvas, I didn't change the heading at the top of it. I'll admit that. That's why that says unofficial.
So really to get an official count, you'd have to visit the meeting minutes of whatever meeting of each individual entity.
If you look at the date on that,
Yeah.
that's when a person requested that. It was 12/28,
Okay.
okay, 21. That's when a person requested that document, and that's when they made it official.
No,
When they send out all these documents,
these are unofficial.
they're unofficial. A lot of them are. There's only that document and the city election was official. All the rest of them are unofficial. If they're giving them to us, they should be giving to us as official.
And I think that's what Ms. Baxley is saying, is that they say unofficial at the top because she didn't change the header, but they are official documents.
And that's good to know. So anything that we've come up with are indeed official records.
Because
that
they
we
have been
were provided.
canvassed.
Just vote,
Yes, Annie.
But just moving forward, if you want actual official, you go to the meeting minutes of Commissioner's Court or school district or city council or whoever is in charge of that election and pull their meeting minutes and get the actual official one that was voted on the campus.
Yeah.
Well, these I didn't ask for anyways.
All right.
Right?
All right,
Yeah.
I'll just make,
Yeah, but that's good to know.
so, okay.
I think I've seen Marie post them, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we posted, we have to post them,
Yeah.
so they are posted as part of our meeting packet, so.
Good, that's good to know. So there seems to be some question I've had from a couple of members on the court about past vote records and some concern about, you know, different vocabulary and what they're called and, you know, how long they've been around, is that a common term? Here we see the one closest to the 2020 election. I wanted to show you that this is an election advisory from 2019, October, from Secretary of State, Keith Ingram, that got sent out to all election officials. Section 12 is going to be the retention of election material. And if you'll see on section 12, for electronic records, cast vote records, ballot images as applicable. The electronic files can be duplicated to another storage medium, external hard drive, USB drive, CD or DVD, to meet the retention requirement and allow for the external memory storage to be reused in the next election. Whatever medium you choose, you must ensure that you will have the hardware and or software needed to read the data from the medium at a later date if necessary. A minimum of 2 duplicates of the electronic data must be retained, labeled, and stored in a secure manner where any opening could be detected and each placed in a different locked area with restricted access. At the bottom of each advisory that you will find on the Secretary of State's website, he has a glossary of terms to make it clear. Ballot image, electronically produced record of all votes cast by a single voter, also known as a cast vote record. Cast vote record. Permanent record of all votes produced by a single voter, whether in electronic or paper copy form, used for counting votes. All referred to as a ballot image when used to refer to electronic ballots. So again, I just want to make it clear from our point of view, especially when you have a clerk that had been in office for more than 20 years, there's no way that she did not know and was not aware of what a cast vote record is. That's a hard no for me. I think that's unreasonable to even suggest that that's a possibility. If you're reading your advisories, cast vote records are not new. They're not new. They go back, as far as I know, to 2008. Maybe more, I don't know. But for me, I know 2008, and they can be found again on the website. And I'm almost done with this. Another thing I wanted to address, because I really kind of have questions about duplicating ballots. I know that a log is kept, and I'll just go forward to it. This is a duplicating log that was obtained, and it's my understanding that the mail-in ballots received, if there was a problem and they had to be duplicated, they were logged, correct? I believe that that's what this is for. And possibly any spoiled ballots that would have gone in the spoiled box would be in here.
Or military
I don't know
ballots.
why.
The military ballots, they send an email to them, they print their ballot on regular paper, and they mail it back in. Since it's not on ballot paper, they reproduce it, duplicate it. And these are all the forms from the 2022 election
From 2020, those are forms for
Of
2022.
2020 election.
From 2020.
2020 election.
Okay.
These are 2020 election, and there is a list of 605
Duplicated ballots.
duplicated.
Hold on one second, Annie. Ms. Baxley,
Yes, sir.
do you mind, for my edification, how would a ballot be duplicated? What would happen that would cause that to occur?
It could be a bleed through if they use something different on the paper, like a marker.
So we're talking about mail-in ballots only
Yes, just
here.
mail-in
Okay.
ballots. And like Mr. Gother said, it could be a military ballot. If they marked something and they went back and said no, then that would be duped, especially if it was in that code, if they'd done something in that code channel. On those old machines, it wouldn't take anything if it wasn't marked there.
So mail-in ballot comes in, we try to read it, to run it through the scanner after it comes in. The machine pops up saying, there's an issue here. Then we reach out to the voter.
I think it's even before it goes to
It
the
is.
machine. If they see any type of corrections on that it won't go through, or there's a possibility it won't go through, they go ahead and
But what
reproduce
you do,
it.
there's a ballot board that goes through, they open all the ballots. If they see a problem with it that they think is a potential problem, then they will bring it, we'll look at it. If we think it won't go through, then we do reproduce it. If not, then we'll try to run it through.
And that's where this log comes into play, is
Exactly.
once we decide we need to reproduce it,
Yes,
put
that's
the old
what
ballot number, the new ballot number, and off we go.
Yes.
Who
Okay.
makes the call if it's not readable? Who's the ultimate authority?
The ballot
The
board.
ballot board?
And it's.
It takes two people
Two people.
to do this process, and those two people were selected how?
Pardon me?
Who are the two people? that-
Usually when we do, it's a Republican and a Democrat.
Okay.
So if a mail-in ballot, let's just say you mark two candidates, that one would not be counted,
Now, if you cannot determine their intent, no, sir.
okay? And
But-
all military ballots then are come in on plain paper,
If I email the ballots to them,
Okay.
yes, sir. If they're
Okay.
mailed, then it's that regular
and
ballot.
those automatically have to be
Yes, sir.
reproduced, okay?
And then in 2020, they had a problem getting the proper toner, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so they had to use another toner, and it smudged where the serial numbers were, and stuff, the ballot number. So they had to duplicate those because the machine couldn't read the ballot numbers. So they had to mail them to duplicate some of those.
So on this log, you've got one person actually physically duplicating and then a witness, is that what I'm reading here?
Yes.
Okay.
They checked the ballot and made sure that the person who prepared that ballot
Did the
correctly
right
what the
transfer.
voters' intent was.
Okay,
That they got the voters' intent.
yeah.
Mutually agreed.
So, in the process of duplicating ballots, kind of hoping maybe I get clarification. Perhaps I'm not reading this correctly. I'm after all, I'm an attorney. But if you look down to item E, it says that item E and F, each duplicate ballot must be clearly labeled duplicate and must bear the serial number of the original ballot. The duplicate shall be substituted for the original ballot in the ballots prepared for automatic counting. The original shall be preserved with the other voted ballots for the same period.
Can I ask a question, Penny, real quick on that? So on serial numbers of ballots, in our new system, does it not identify each ballot individually by its own unique serial number, and we don't assign serial numbers?
I don't assign any ballot number to anyone, no.
No, we don't assign a serial number, so how do we meet that intent if they both have to have the same serial number?
They
Do we
don't
just
have
write
to have the
it?
same serial number, because you're not gonna get the same ballot number. Say if I had to do your ballot,
Yeah.
your first one is number 1,
Yeah.
your second one that we do could be number 10,000.
Okay,
And
But-
that is the number that would go on there. Your old ballot would be number 1, your new ballot would be number 10,000.
okay.
and the new one would just have to include.
It had to
the
include the original
number.
All right, I'm trying to understand, so, thank you.
So what I'd like to know is, where does it indicate duplicate on the ballot? Where's that located at?
That's not a question for us. That's a question for
Yeah.
On the duplicate ballot, I don't think there's ever been anything wrote on the new ballot saying duplicate. I know that now there is. One says old and one says new. But in 2020, it's been a few years, but I don't remember that being on there.
1,086
1,486.
ballots do not indicate duplication.
There's 1,486 unfolded ballots in the absent, the mail-in ballots.
For 2020.
So if 1,486 are unfolded, then they have to be spoiled. This list contains 605.
That's a deficit of 800 and some ballots unaccounted for in that 1,486.
I also went through the spoiled ballots, I went through all of them, and I counted 506. But I'm going by their list of 605.
On the high end, to make the gap not so extensive. So we have a problem. We have duplicated ballots that aren't meeting requirement of 127, 126, no indication that they're duplicate, okay? Then we come up against the issue of the log where only 605 of them are recorded.
And out of the, I also looked at the spoiled ballots. And out of the spoiled ballots, there was 51 that had unfolded ballots. That told me that when they made the correction, there was an error, and so they had to replace it with another ballot because they,
Hold on a second, again, just so, what, a spoiled ballot, what causes a ballot to be spoiled?
the toner.
Okay, so the same issues we had with the duplicate
us. They
ballots.
can be any of them.
Okay.
So we don't mark the spoiled ballots as spoiled?
Then we did not. I don't know, like I said, I do not remember doing that, but I know it was, I mean, it's been done now. I know we're doing it now.
So I'm under, yeah, I'm
We
sorry.
can set up right there if you want. That's fine.
Appreciate it.
So I'm understanding that when you see a ballot that's not folded, then we could say that one didn't come through the mail. That's what the folded part is. So you know that was prepared on site. Okay, just to be clear.
Right, if it has no folds, right,
Right.
we know at some point, obviously, it didn't get mailed, didn't get returned.
It was prepared, yeah, on
Correct.
site.
And the thing is I went through every ballot, then I asked Andy to go in there and take my sheet and go verify some of these. See if my count's up there. What I did is, if I couldn't tell whether a ballot was folded or not, I said it was folded. So she hit a batch, and she got one more unfolded ballot than I did. And I said, well, that's because if I had a question on it, I said it was folded.
Yeah, it was batch 106.
So all the other batches that she checked are numbers matched.
Okay, what was this again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What were you saying? I didn't hear you.
Okay, when I went through these, if I felt the ballot was not folded, I counted it as not folded. But if it was questionable whether it was folded or not, I said it was folded.
He gave the benefit of the doubt.
I understand, I heard, okay.
I tend to go that way
Okay.
instead of being wrong. So, and then Annie did a shotgun effect where she checked different batches.
Okay.
And one of the batches she checked, she got one more unfolded ballot than I did. And I said, because of what I did, saying that it might have possibly been folded, I didn't count it. So all the other batches that she checked had the same number that I had.
Which batch was that, Annie?
It was 106.
106?
Ms. Jackson, give me those
What was
numbers.
in your page?
Those numbers
What was in your
again.
page?
I wasn't questioning, I just didn't
Yeah, I
hear it,
know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was 106.
Now, 605, the number 605 is, that's on the log.
That's the
Okay.
list on the log.
All right, and then what's the other number? The other number is,
This is the actual ballots that were counted for the election.
and what was that number?
There's actually 4,224 ballots in that box. 1,486 had no folders.
1,486.
You have this paper in the folder.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was just trying to get this sorted out.
But these,
And that 42, that's the total. Okay, I got it.
so this is all the records that I did when I did my thing.
Okay.
I have the visual. Get the share screen.
Sure. But we,
I can't get it. I think two people are.
Did it freeze up?
it's not letting her share it.
It's moving by itself.
Hold on.
He's gonna check it. Is that what he said?
He's gonna fix your share screen. Just give me a second.
Zoom was sharing the wrong window. When she launched the slideshow, it opened up a new window instead of, and he's correcting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
New technology to us, so bear with us a little bit.
Bear with me.
I think this is the first time we've presented from the podium, so.
Joe, please speak into the microphone.
The microphone only goes to Zoom. There's no audio in the building.
Can we turn it up a little bit?
You can't. It doesn't go,
Feedback?
if you turn the speakers on, you get instant
Instant
feedback.
feedback? Okay,
Voice, it's just voice in the courtroom.
okay.
So if my math is correct, we're looking at 881 unaccounted for.
Right.
Now, when we say unaccounted for, I'm trying to figure out what the possibilities are.
Okay, we're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Fine.
I'm anxiously awaiting.
Yeah, okay. Good,
I
thank
think
you.
we all want the punchline here.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And this is the 2020 election we're
Yes.
talking, okay. I want to note that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, very good.
While they're working on that, Penny, for now, where we are now with November 22 and moving forward, do the ballots all say duplicate? Has that been, when we've got a duplicate issue,
Yes.
do we stamp it, or when the machine does it? How does that happen manually that we do that, or?
It is, after we dupe it, they put old on the top of the one that is being duped and new on the top of the other.
So we handwrite that,
It's
or?
not manually done, I'm sorry. No, it's not manually done off the machine. We do it after it's due. So you'll do the old one and the new one, and then they're paper clipped back together. And then after we run them through the machine, then they're paper clipped back together and then put away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this is the list that's in your package. Just this list right here.
You talk over it.
And like I said, they were given to me in batches. Gina, Christina, and Penny have worked on these. And so some of the batches are 25, 26, 24, whatever we had in the batch. And they're the batches are wrapped in rubber band with a sticky on it with telling us which batch number. So you could easily go back to look at these batches and verify them for yourself. And it took between these and the spoiled ballots with my 10 days, you had, depending on the county clerk, you had 2 hours and 2 hours in the afternoon. And then it went to 3 and 3. So I was within my 10 days, I could do all these. There's still some that I want to go back and look at again, so I requested another 10 days. But you'll see, if you look at the cumulative report, my numbers do not perfectly match which is the last page of this sheet. I give the totals. And so the first column is 1,377, that was 4. If you compare that to the cumulative report, there's 7 votes difference. Then on the against was 1,384. That, there was a 7 vote difference. I did not see any overvotes, and that is between me and the machine, because the machine may pick up a spot and say it's an overvote, where with me, I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the voter's intent. So that may be the 7 difference there. Also, I found 391, I think it shows 392 on that one.
Nice.
So, huh?
No.
On the cumulative report.
Okay.
On the cumulative report. And that could be the difference. This is on Prop 1. And this could be the difference of me miscounting or whatever, but we have a 14 vote difference, 7 for and 7 against. Of course, they had the 7 that was overvote, and that could be because of my voter intent or the machine seeing it as a mark in there and seeing it as an overvote. And that's why I had to be suggested to Dion to present that these scanners need to be calibrated every time they're used, to rerun the test ballots that you run for your integrity, that they need to be run before you run the actual ballots to verify it's reading the same as when you did your test. And it also should be run again after the ballots have been run to make sure nothing has changed from the time you start to the time you end it. It's your calibration cycle.
Right now we calibrate before and then.
And you run your ballots through on the day that you're doing the integrity test. After, and it's put in an envelope along with the thumb drive it produces, because you put it in the other machine, it comes up with the totals. You put that in an envelope, you seal it, and it is marked by the election judges or the witnesses. And then on election day, they verify that it hasn't been tampered with. They open up the envelope, they take out the thumb drive, put it in the machine, and it checks the same. They do not rerun the ballots. So there's no verification. You don't know what happened to that machine, whether it's been bumped, heat changed it, or whatever, because it's an electronic equipment. It can be affected by things. It's the same thing when I talked with Mickey, the same thing as a radar gun.
Yeah.
He has to calibrate, when he was a police officer, he had to calibrate it daily.
So for this round, again, we have 1,486 ballots that do not meet with one of the Texas codes. That's at worst case scenario, and that's obvious. Best case is some of them are salvageable only because there's a log, perhaps. But that still leaves more than 800 ballots non-verifiable. Don't know if they're legitimate or not, and they should not even be there.
The thing is I think once we go into talking about the cumulative report for the WISD, I think it'll make more sense to you.
Well, let me ask on this number here, so I understand the, because I have trouble on the very back tallying out. Who is in charge of these 4,224 ballots?
They are locked up downstairs in the room, and they're under the county clerk's care and guarded by the sheriff.
But I mean, who gets this, prepares this count? Is it a
I did this
ballot?
last-
No, a
Originally.
committee, or when election occurs, who's going to come up with?
So it's my understanding in the state, you have your early voting, right? Where you go to a location and you vote early. Okay, well, technically, mail-in ballots are seen as early voting. So therefore, it is the responsibility of the early voting ballot board is the one that handles these. Now, whether or not this county has a
And who is
signature
the early
verification,
voting
I don't know.
ballot board? When you say that, how does that come into play? Who develops that? Is it made up the Republican and Democratic Party?
I
Is
believe
it
they- I
the
believe
chair
they are.
people bring nominees to
If I'm
that?
not mistaken, does not the judge have to sign off on things?
It's a good question. I wasn't there. I don't know. Penny, can you answer that?
I'm not, I can find out, but I don't think that a county judge would have to sign off on getting people for, our citizens for public tests. Dion.
Dion, so Dion Starnes works for Senator Drew Springer. She knows a whole lot about elections code. and
She's the
elections.
pro.
I'm the problem?
Pro.
Yeah, Dion, we had a good visit.
Dion, and you can certainly set up here by mail if you need to.
Yeah, why don't you come on up so we can get you on the microphone easier? Thank you. That way people on the phone can hear you really well too.
For anyone who doesn't know what she works at Springer. Yeah.
Was on SEC and in Hicksburg on election.
Yes, she certainly is.
Yes, so, for early ballot board, can y'all hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
For early ballot board, it depends on, the parties each, put the people that they want forward as a nominee. And it is approved by the county commissioner's court, but state law also says it must be done in the order that the list is done. So the parties get to pick it. The primary party of the county, whoever has the majority votes, that party gets the judge, and the second most vote getting party gets the alternate judge, and then it has to be an equal number of clerks. Does that answer the question? And it has to be approved by the county commissioners, so yes, y'all do approve it.
So the early voting board is the same as the voting board?
So the early voting ballot board,
Yeah.
they go through, y'all most likely, I don't know, there's a signature verification board, but you can separate that out. Most counties do not. So that all is gonna be retained within the early ballot board. And they're gonna check all the mail ballots, they're gonna check all of the military ballots, and they'll check the provisional ballots.
Okay.
And Dion, how much ahead of an election is a ballot board put into place?
It's usually done for 2-year terms for all the elections, and it has to be done depending on the population of a county, either by June 30th or the names submitted by June 30th or July 31st. And I believe for the population for Wichita Falls, it's going to be July 31st deadline, and y'all have to do it by August or September.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm doing this off the top of my head. I'm like,
Thank you.
So correct me, Dion, if I'm wrong. It is not the girls in the office.
Right.
It
no.
is not the girls in the office.
It is not, and
It
even the
went over.
duplication is, Remind me of your name? Penny. Almost called her Dina. It's supposed to be, especially in the duplication, you need to have, except in a primary, right? Because that's a party issue. But you're supposed to have a Republican and a Democrat doing it together, verifying that, yes, you know, usually one calls it out, the other one marks it, and then they verify it, and they both sign off on it. It's a lot of work to work on the early voting ballot board, I would just say.
Okay, you want to do 211? Okay.
So this is the precinct by precinct sheet that you have. The one you have has the totals on the bottom for absentee, early voting, and election day. The total for, we're looking at Prop 1.
Well, and Joe, let me ask just one more thing before we move off that.
Sure.
So I had, in the total, when you count these ballots, there were 1377 for and 1384 against.
Correct.
But where does 4,224 come into play?
Okay, 4,224 is the whole county ballots. So you have county, you have Burke Burnett, you have Electra, you have Iowa Park, all those ballots are in there.
It's the
I
totality.
was only
yeah.
looking at one race. I looked at, we counted all the ballots.
Oh,
For the whole
okay.
county.
I got you.
So for the whole
Okay.
county, there was
That's
4,224.
one. Okay, I got you.
So now we're looking at this sheet, and you have the one with the colored copy with the totals on it. So what we're looking at now is on the absentee, we have a difference of 3,145 into that for the at-large, and for Prop 1 and Prop 2, we have 3,146. So the thing is everybody who can vote for at-large can vote for the propositions, because it's for that area. So anybody that can vote in WISD can vote for at-large, and they also can vote for the two propositions. So the numbers should be the same. So when you see on the early voting, you see that there's a difference of 10 votes between the propositions and the at-large. In the same way with there's a difference between the at-large and Prop 1 for election day. These people, these numbers should be the same. When I reviewed the city one for at-large and all the propositions, the numbers came out perfect. This one here tells me the machine did something. And that's what we're gonna go through.
But wouldn't that be made up, couldn't that be made up in undervotes?
No, because even an undervote counts, because you're counting the under and overvotes here, because that's how many ballots were submitted for that election. So you have the for, the against, the overvotes, the undervotes, that's your total balance. The ballots, so that's the total number of voters. So the total number of voters should be the same as for at-large and the same for the propositions. They have to equal.
$211.
What's that?
Was that 211 you just showed me?
No, I'm
No,
just
okay.
showing the thing. Okay, I didn't put 211 in there. We can show you, there's also, there's precinct to precinct, and I did see some of the sheets that are in there. One of them is marked 211, for precinct 211. And what we did, you'll see the same thing. This is for the precinct. The number for at-large on early voting and election day differs from the propositions. This is by the precinct. So we have this up on the screen now. So we have a total difference of 113 ballots because we have 82 difference on early voting and 26 on election day. So there's an error of 113.
No, it's like 20-something. There's a total of 141 ballots were cast.
Right,
You
okay.
can see it over here in the corner
That's right.
on the precinct report, down in the blue box. According to the poll pad data and the absentee data, I don't know where it comes from. Came from an Excel spreadsheet.
Right. That's the one.
That's actually the total, according to the poll pads, comes up to 113. The machine came up to 141.
So this is the one we got from knowing that we're going through. And I think that's the same one Mark and Mr. Johnson, Judge Johnson are working with. So if you go back and look, pull up for that 211, it will show you the number of voters who voted in that precinct if you filter it. And Annie will show you how to do that real quick.
Well, I gotta open up a new Excel.
Yeah.
So let's go through this and we'll show it.
Yeah.
Okay, 302.
Okay, on the next one,
Is that large?
it's 302.
Yeah. Precinct 302.
Yeah, precinct 302. The total number of ballots is 914. You can tell them what the.
And the total from the poll pads is 945.
So we have a difference. Why is our poll pad number and our cumulative reports not matching up with numbers?
What would cause that, Penny?
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Why would the poll pad numbers be different than the cumulative?
Cumulative report.
Because you could have, from the cumulative report, poll pad numbers different from the cumulative.
This is the one I showed you when we met with Jim Johnson about the precinct to precinct. And you said you would get back with me on it. Why the numbers didn't match.
If you checked in on the poll pad, it counts you. Isn't there a possibility that even after you checked in, for some reason, you didn't complete the ballot?
Yes, sir.
Shouldn't be.
And that happens, because people don't hit the button,
They
and
could
they
have
don't.
checked, they could have checked in on the poll pad,
Right?
but when they got to the machine to vote, they could have walked off. And we had
That's-
people
yeah.
doing it, yes.
And that does happen.
Yes, we do. We have it happen.
When
But
you
on the other
chase them out the
machine,
door, you didn't hit the
exactly. If
vote
you don't
button.
hit it, then they have to cancel it out.
On
Okay, so it's saying the ballots are 500.
No, this right here.
Okay.
You're on 302.
Nine-
945.
That says the total number of ballots per, the thing is 914, and the other one is 945. Okay, that could explain that 30 people walked off. What's the other one?
To 11.
That seems like a lot, but, depends on the total number.
And then you have a poll pad showing lower number.
Right, if you go to, back to 211, it's saying there's 141 votes, but the poll pad is saying that there's only
113.
113. So you have more votes than voters.
How would that happen, Penny?
See, I can't explain that,
That
'cause
one
that's,
I cannot explain.
yeah.
Yes,
I
Do you
could
mind
see
if I
how
ask her
it
a
could be
question?
less, but I don't see how it could be
Can I
more.
ask a
Yeah,
question
so-
on this data?
These
Are
machines are
these
not
total
Hold on.
numbers
We
included?
don't want
correctly.
we don't want two conversations happening at the same
I'm sorry, Joe, I'm asking a question. This data, is this including the military overseas numbers and all of that? So they
Yeah.
do not check in on a poll pad?
No,
So all that's on the absent.
Right.
That's on the
The absentee
absentee
list.
data.
we had.
Okay, so you've accounted for that and it's still only
Right.
113
Yes,
with
ma'am.
100,
Right.
but you show 141 total ballots, but only,
113.
Can I say say something?
Yeah.
In 2020, provisional ballots were not voted on the machine, or weren't into the machine, I'm sorry. So his difference could be the provisional ballots put in the poll pad, but were not put in on that, because provisional ballots are not counted with that total until after the ballot board approves them, and then they're run in after the ballot board approves them, after they have that 7-day cure time. So,
But shouldn't there be a list somewhere of these so that it would match up with the absentee and early voting and election day? Shouldn't
not
that-
if they didn't count in there on that specific election, no, they wouldn't be in there.
But if they did, wouldn't they be somewhere?
There would be some in there, but I don't know, I can't tell you how many was counted in there. I can get in there and look. I can look at the provisionals that we have and tell you which envelopes were and which weren't. But that could be part of your difference there, is your provisional voting that did not count. Because they
Okay.
would not be in your total.
Right, but if they did count, they would be on one of the two lists. But
On the two of the what?
They would either be on the absentee or early voting or election day list.
Only on election day or early voting, yes.
Penny, do you keep a log of provisionals? Who
Yes.
all so if you had 50 people come in and vote provisionally,
Mhm.
and only 5 counted, then you still got a record of those 45 that did not count,
Yes.
but it would not be on your totals.
Exactly,
Got it.
Precinct by precinct.
yes.
But so we have one where the numbers are higher and we have one where the numbers are lower. It doesn't really make sense.
Well, I think that's the point is, one could be explained by walk-offs, the other could be explained by provisionals. Am I understanding what?
Yeah, they
that
could be,
background was?
you would think that the tally sheet would, be made to eventually reflect that.
But she's
I don't know
saying
if
the
you can tally
provisionals would
walk
show
on
up
that.
on the early
No,
voting
you
or
couldn't
election day
ever-
list.
Okay.
On particularly the old machines, because,
We don't count that,
yeah,
or,
'cause if you didn't hit that cast vote at the end, they weren't real intuitive. Or now, with the new one, you walk away, walk out with your paper, and it reported several times that people were trying to walk away with their ballot papers.
Okay, so if you did
Yep.
that, then your information would be on the poll pad, right?
It would-
Your information would be on,
You're
The
considered
poll
a
pad.
you're
Mhm.
considered a fleeing voter, but I believe that when you do that, you haven't actually cast your vote. Correct me if I'm wrong, Penny,
What?
but you're unregistered, whatever. When you have a fleeing voter, or one that doesn't finish the process.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you make it where they could go to another polling location and actually vote, or do you leave them on that poll pad?
I think they take them back from out of that poll pad, if they know who it was. And if they walk over there and they don't know who it
And
was.
they don't know
then
who
they
it is,
can't.
that's the thing, they could be left on.
I think there was a question to Kenneth.
I've been election judge for over 25 years, and I want to comment on the thinking about they were walk-offs. Dion, maybe you can comment also, but my experience is we may have maybe one on election day, but typically 0, because we're trained to watch for that. So there's no way to be 13 or 15 or 35, I don't believe. Dion,
The
you have
numbers seem
experience?
high to me, but
Okay, it depends on the county. I mean, it
Six or
really
seven.
depends on the county. You go to Denton County and we get a lot of them. Unfortunately, you know, but and we do train, right? Y'all are trained to watch the scanner and to watch the door. And if you see somebody walking, and then some people are like, no, this is mine, this is my receipt, right? They don't get it that, no, you haven't cast your ballot yet, right? So,
this was the old system.
Yeah, we're still talking about.
You had-
and y'all had first gen,
And
right?
I had asked this court, when they got the new system, the very first election, which was gonna be a small election, to do a hand count to verify. And it was rejected.
and I think perhaps, Dion, you can answer this. It seems to me that this is where cast vote records could come into play, because if I go in there and I cast my vote, I've got an image of my vote. If I walk away, I'm on the poll pad, but then there's no image.
So
because
there's,
it's not hitting completed.
right, there is a difference between cast vote record and a ballot image. But, you know what, I'd have to look it up. I can go ask an election attorney. That one I can't tell you, but that,
I mean-
I understand where you're coming from,
I mean,
because
that would
I
seem-
honestly don't know the
That
answer
would
to that.
seem,
Explain the ballot image, where would that come from?
when you go to vote, I don't know how, on the DRE, when you went to vote, it made a real-time image of your voting
And to be
onto the
stored-
system.
Onto the
It
system.
would be stored,
An electronic ballot, your
Mm-hmm.
electronic ballot.
and where would the storage, would it be on the machine?
Yes.
Would it be a separate storage area than the vote itself? Because right now, we're storing, every machine stores in two places, doesn't it? And they're removable and one that's permanent, if I'm understanding this right.
Well, you can put the information on an external device.
Yes, you can on an MBB.
You can put that on an
A
external
V-Drive, I think is
device.
what y'all
Okay.
have, because y'all have,
And that was the
Because-
discussion.
because
So
you'll have
when
to
you
clear
hit
that out
vote,
for
then
the
it would
next
take that
election.
image, and that would be separate from casting that vote, that'd be, okay. I was just trying to understand the
And
mechanics of it.
that's how Mr. Watts brought it up 2 weeks ago when we were here, and he said, can't we get the software? And the thing is, because the machines have gone, but supposedly they still have the data, but they can't read the data because they don't have the software. And we had asked for that back in August when they said they had it. We asked for the software, call them up and see if we can get the software out. At least Ms. Jackson did. And so we haven't got the cast vote records. So that's one of the things. We need to get the software so we can read that data to find out what the cast vote records, and would help explain some of this data. But anyways, these are just some of the problems we found with the precinct by precinct. There's still another one, and this one's very good.
This is, this was a little bit confusing. It
This-
says it's Wichita Falls ISD, precinct 408.
And you have that page.
They voted for Prop 1, Prop 2.
It's one of the loose sheets that were in there.
They
Yeah, I think
can't
stapled
do
together.
that, though.
Okay.
Well, actually, if you'll
If you look at that sheet.
look, their split is City View School District.
And also, if you look at that, the election has no at-large. There's only Prop 1 and Prop 2, no at-large.
There would have been, Catherine would have been on there. She's not on there. And if you'll notice, it says that they received 409.
Right,
Right there.
on that thing. On the poll pad data, if you notice that you got from No Ink, they didn't have a column with all the things filled in. Luckily, on this one here, one of them was filled in. So we know that that's a WISD one there for 409. So these people were given the wrong ballot. It had been reported from people in Iowa Park to us that they received the city ballot,
And
and they were
here,
told to vote it anyway.
do we have that page, the 409?
The
No.
408. It's going to be precinct
408.
408.
Oh, 408.
I have the full thing here, I can show you 409. There's 409.
Why is there only showing 7 ballots cast in?
Those are the names, those are the people, well, doesn't show the names.
This is a
So,
screenshot of the
but
Excel. Right here, Jeff. Right here. These are
Okay.
the voters. There was one early day and then 5 were early.
And does it
voters.
have an address or street address on
It
there?
does on that extended thing. But here's what elections they can vote on. CBSD, City View. And they were giving a WISD ballot.
Is there, Penny, is there ever a case in that precinct that there may be an address that's across the line where WFISD would be,
Where it's gonna split with the school district?
It will split,
With the school
but
district, yes.
okay, and how do we determine the ballot style that would go to that individual if their address is across lines? So, say they lived on one side of the street, City View, and the other side of the street's
That's
WFISD.
where your redistricting comes in.
But how do we determine
Individuals.
by their address.
By their
Addresses are
address.
They
gonna
have to
show
go
me
down and do it.
But-
But they still be residing in this precinct 408 or 406, whichever it is, but they may have a different ballot style for that
Well, you,
particular address.
Yes.
more than likely, you have 3 school districts in 408. You've got City View, Iowa Park, and Wichita Falls to the far south.
Yeah, well, that's, like, I've got Holiday School Districts and WFISD and Iowa Park, all in.
But I certainly don't understand why you would not have the at-large. Can you see those addresses, Ann? I'm sorry.
No, you are fine. They're gonna be
Or
in
the
the actual
streets.
Excel.
Okay, in 408, there are 2 ballot splits, and neither one of them have WISD on
In 40
them. 408,
408.
there's no ballot, there's 2 ballot splits, 1 and 2.
Can I open a new
Neither one
Excel
of them
book?
have WISD.
Can I open the Excel book that they need?
You should be able to. If not, my guys will help you with it.
Well, isn't this it, Joe, right here? Wichita Falls.
Yes, that's for 407.
Okay, and then,
There's no WISD, 408, and 408.
right here.
Under this disc. But their thing showed city.
So you're telling me like when these sheets print here, there should be a split 1 sheet, split 2 sheet, split,
Well, no, because it's, let's just say one precinct has 9 different splits, and only one of the splits has a WISD. You weren't gonna show the other splits because there's only one that's a
Yeah,
WISD.
yeah. yeah.
We're now an hour and 15 minutes in. I would say this doesn't have to be the last discussion on this, so specific questions we can have, but I just want to.
Do we have like 5 more?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to get us moving.
Let's go to the cumulative report one.
Joe, I may have
I
your,
can't.
Yeah.
Where's the drive? I'm having trouble with it.
Let's look at the addresses specifically, his question. Let's see if we can do that after.
Oh,
yeah.
So y'all
Here it
can
is.
keep
I'm
moving.
No, we're trying to pull up the
Yeah.
cumulative report.
Which one are you trying to
Go
open?
through the cumulative report
Is it one on your thumb drive?
Mm-hmm.
and show you how many voters were actually allowed to vote in these elections.
Oh,
I
okay.
got it. The no ink?
Yes. So what we're gonna do is, she's pulling up the whole early voting. And you also need, we should have probably started with the absentee, just did the absentee.
It got redacted, so only their names are on here. I don't know where the addresses are.
Okay, let's pull up the absentee and we'll pull up the data for,
These guys, I have to have this all, I can't do that.
for the school bond issue, WISD on the absentee.
Have a spreadsheet, do a lot with it.
So what she's doing, she's taking the absentee list that the county supplied to us, which is 505. And if you look in the column, there's, these are all the documents. scroll down through, she cleaned already up all the suppressed ones, the canceled ones.
I can take the, yeah, I left them there.
Oh, you left those?
Yeah,
in?
so I can filter.
Yeah, she's gonna
Canceled?
filter out all the canceled ones. She's gonna filter out all the ones that did not mail a ballot back. So if they didn't mail a ballot back, it's just like you not going to the polling place. So we're gonna filter those out. And we're gonna look at WISD and how many people could vote that sent their ballot in, and how many voters that we had. And we're gonna compare that number to the ones for the absentee.
To drag. Can you drag it for me? Can you drag it for me? I can't get it to latch. There it goes.
So the column right to the right of the people that voted, where you have a number in there, Joe.
What's that?
Right of where you're going down, that indicate voted,
Yes,
a number in that
that
column,
shows
okay.
WISD.
I can't see it very good, but,
These are, this is the line number with called out,
okay.
and you have a title at the
So
top.
that's like a ballot number over in that next column.
There's no ballot number.
Okay, but I mean, that indicates that vote.
I think he's talking about column X.
Yeah, I can't see the column.
I think he's talking about column X, is that
Column
number in
X,
there
yeah.
showing that it is, that person voted?
Right. And this here is that they registered
Okay.
for early vote. This is the day it was sent.
Okay.
This is the day they returned.
Okay.
And what's X? Joe, what is X?
Yeah, what's in that X?
X, I don't know. I don't know if that's
Solve for X.
penny.
Yeah.
That must be correct then.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking.
It's the envelope number. It's the envelope number.
Okay, thank you.
2345.
2345 were allowed to vote. So write that down underneath the total that you had for absentee.
2345?
2345.
And these are ABBMs? Applications for ballot by mail? That's how many applications for ballot by mail that there were?
This is how many people voted in WISD
Through mail-in?
Yes.
through mail-in.
Through mailing.
Through the mail-in. So if you subtract one from the other, we have more votes than voters. Now, that might explain part of this 1486, why we have so many votes here that are unfolded.
Y'all probably said it while I was gone. That spreadsheet, that's poll that data.
That's the one the county supplied to us.
But it was all data that was done after the date, it was collected after the date of the election.
Right.
And it was, that's the very first data you gave me that we went back and checked.
Right.
That we determined was not proper data to do anything with.
No,
Because it was, they pulled that data like in,
this is not poll that data.
no, but they pulled that data like in June or something. And the people, it had all the people included on there that had moved since November.
Right, and those were the ones that were canceled. They removed them. We moved all the canceled ones. We left the suspense ones in, because the suspense ones had something that get corrected by election day, and they could vote. We left those in.
I think we're saying, yeah, that original one, those weren't, they didn't move before election day. They had moved since election day, and they were no longer being populated in the report.
That was on the Excel spreadsheet for election day and early voting.
I'm confused.
What you're talking about.
And Dion, so you understand, when they were originally given their information, and I don't know if you remember talking to me back then, they went to the clerk's office, they asked for voter information, the people that voted. They pulled that data as of the day they requested it. So they pulled all that data, and all those people that had moved since then
Right.
were given, they were part
They
of
were
that
still
data
in there.
stream. And it was showing that people were living in Burke and Iowa Park and all this, that were voted in WFISD.
We
You go back and find out, they actually lived there at the time, but when they pulled the data, they had all moved.
Moved
they
and
moved.
changed their voter registration.
Right.
This is not that data. That was on the Excel report for early voting and election day. This is just absentee. This pertains to this. When you pull it up, we have more votes than voters.
Okay, the 2345 you gave us, that number, what does that represent?
That's the number.
That's the number that was on
People
there.
that voted, that mailed their ballots in, that voted in WISD.
Okay.
It's more than enough to overturn the election.
Well,
Is
also,
is that data missing any precinct numbers?
What's that?
Was that data missing any precinct numbers? The
Look at
Excel,
that.
the spreadsheet?
no.
Okay. All right, let's. we
Real
can-
quick, Jim, Region 9, we also had another polling location on election day missing, and that was Cameron Gardens. There's no poll pad information for Cameron Gardens on election day.
So we could go through the early voting on the same thing and give you the number on that, but election day, we can't give you. We also looked to make sure that every poll pad was working during early voting, and they all were. We just need to know the times that they were open, because we had one poll pad that never registered a vote until noon. So we don't know if that poll pad, that election day started on noon or not, so we don't know if our early voting data is corrupt or not.
So here's my question. I understand what Penny is saying about poll pad. But when I go and I check in, my information that I'm a verified voter is on that poll pad, correct? That's verifying that I'm registered, that I'm who I am, to the best of its ability, I'm there to vote.
And gives you your ballot style. And it should give you your ballot
Correct.
style.
So I want someone to please explain to me how you legitimately count votes and where you get those votes from when you have no human to tie them to. Where are the votes that came out of Region 9 if they were indeed counted? And where are the votes that came out of Cameron Gardens if they were indeed counted? Because you have no poll pad data for Region 9 and Cameron Gardens on election day for 2020. And I know, Mr. Fincannon, that's a lot of your people vote there, and I know for a fact 4 people voted for you and their votes didn't get counted for you.
Well, the votes got counted, but it doesn't show the thing.
Doesn't show
The
them. So you
thing-
can't count them. How do you legitimate?
So to me, the election board should have never certified this election, because they couldn't verify that the number of votes and the number of voters matched up. If they don't match, you can't verify. You have to find out, investigate why they aren't matching.
And how do you certify votes when you don't have voters? How do you do that? How's that okay? How do you certify votes with no voter type to them?
And Penny, what is the answer to the,
She.
oh, because how does,
There she is. Hold on, Jeff, she's walking in.
I just wondered how the, what's the term, Ann, for, now we vote, we can vote anywhere.
Countywide.
What is it?
It's called countywide voting.
Well, but voting centers versus
Vote
precinct
centers,
vote
right.
locations. So how does that affect Region 9? If I cast a vote there and I live in Electra, Texas,
But your
It
vote,
doesn't.
your vote wouldn't have showed up. Your name would not showed up on the poll pad. And because it wasn't connected.
it wouldn't show back to the precinct I really belong
No,
to?
no, and you'll remember, you get that receipt, and that receipt is supposed to show the voting location, correct?
Is that
It
what it
has your
does? I
voting
don't know.
location, the little 4-digit number. How's your voting location? That's why I said, that's why I told y'all, I can prove I voted because I have my thing.
But how do you get a true number for 408, let's say, if I count Region 9 separately because it doesn't belong to 408?
It's the polling location, it's not a precinct.
Anybody can vote there. I voted there and I wouldn't.
Well, I know, but the 408, what I'm saying, this tally sheet here, if I voted at Region 9, which is a different precinct, how does it take into account my vote on this tally sheet?
Okay. On election day, we only showed you early voting and absentee. We knew Region 9 and this other polling place were missing, so that's corrupt data. We did not use that. We showed you early voting and we showed you absentee.
Okay.
We don't know that the votes were missing, we just don't have the poll pad
We
record.
don't have the poll pad
Yeah.
data showing the number of voters.
So
So
let's
if the
just
machine
take,
got counted, the votes were counted.
So
We
so
just-
everything we showed you
Yeah.
was for absentee and early voting only. We did not show you that because that's corrupt data.
Okay.
Our election day.
Hold on. Penny, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yes, sir. Okay, because I messed up on this end because I want to run a report. So kind of tell me what, it's about the poll pad.
The
and
Region 9 information is missing.
Okay, so,
There's also another.
And Cameron.
There's also-
and what Cameron Gardens? And it's missing from just the poll pad, right?
there's no poll pad.
There's no pad data for those two.
And certified an election that showed more ballots than voters.
Correct.
On your election, because these people right here, on this right here, those two locations were not connected to us. That's why it does not show no votes on there.
Right.
That, not having no people on those locations, has nothing to do with that vote total.
Right.
It has everything to do with it.
No, it
because
doesn't.
It
But
does
hold on,
because
we're
you
not
told me
gonna-
I did not vote. You remember? You told me I didn't vote.
Because it didn't go on there, but we, Annie, we do not
I
get
know.
our, wait,
I know.
please. We do not get our vote totals from that.
I know.
We get our vote totals from what goes off of that MBB.
I understand.
You voted, it's on that MBB.
I understand
It
that.
doesn't mean it didn't, it does not mean it didn't go
I
in
understand
there.
that, but here's the thing. When you have poll pad data and you can't verify a voter, and let's say I work for the county and I knew 2 locations were down, and I vote here at the county courthouse, I want to cheat. I know that Cameron Gardens in Wichita Falls is down. Guess what I get to do? I get to go and vote 3 times.
I didn't know Cameron Gardens
So,
and I
I'm
were
gonna-
down until I was told
I'm gonna
that it
bring
wasn't
this
on
back, because we don't need that back and forth with audience members. We need to
there.
avoid
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Thank you.
Your question, what Commissioner Watts is trying to get at is there ever a spot where we can reconcile voters by poll pad data or another method versus number of votes cast?
Not right now. The data don't.
That's the question.
Okay, now, what's interesting is every time a poll pad is updated, any information that's in there is wiped off. If we don't have it backed up, we can't go back.
But
Doesn't
knowing-
that data get uploaded the poll pad data get uploaded to the Secretary of State every day?
Every day.
For the elections, right.
Pardon me?
And in our meeting in March, Lori Bohanna said, what's on the Secretary of State's website is correct, is the wrong data. She said that in that video. I have the video. If you want to refresh the record.
Okay, so let's,
You were at that meeting.
yeah, no, I remember. Let's,
Well, even if that's true, how can we move on? I mean, we might as well move on. We
let's
can't.
land the
The thing
plane.
is right now, what we showed you is early voting and absentee. Okay? That's the only data we can confirm. We can show an early voting and we can show an absentee. There's more votes than voters. We need explanation why there are more ballots that are unfolded, because we only can account for 609 that were, or 605 that were duplicated. We need to know those answers.
And that may be his stance. my thing is, we have 2 locations. You can't prove who voted and if they were legitimate. You don't know who they were. I wanna know how that's gonna get rectified. How do I know my vote did indeed? How do I know y'all even counted the votes? Because there's no reconciliation at this point. None.
We should, because all that precinct to precinct data, we showed you the errors in, that's comes off the machine. We showed you errors there. The machines are making errors. We showed errors in the numbers on this. The machines are making errors. Why are we getting more votes than voters? The machines are making errors. We need to get rid of the machines. We need to go to paper.
Well, they were gone a long time ago, so we did upgrade.
We need to get rid of the new machines too.
Okay.
We haven't received the data for the 2020 election, the 2022 election yet. I haven't received stuff for 2020 election stuff. The problem is, how can we prove that these machines are any good? Because I can't get the data.
So
I know there's problems with them.
at this point, oh, yeah.
We had somebody back there really wanting to ask a question. Couldn't you?
Pardon me?
You were waving a lot. You were on the end of something, so I don't, go ahead.
The only information that I have not sent to the civil unit for him for 2022 is the CVR records. And like I told you yesterday, the only reason why I haven't done it is because I am unplugged and unhooked because they are doing construction. I can't do it right now. That is the only thing that I have not sent that he has asked for 2022.
What do you need to plug them back in?
It needs to be, because it's unplugged, it's not hooked to anything to where I can work off of it.
Like a big grid construction.
We can figure it
Yes.
out.
Can we work together and get these back up online?
Yeah, I think find out what you need. It's just-
I don't know what you need.
Were you aware of that, Joe? Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Yes.
The thing is, what about the 2020 election?
Well, the thing about 2020, right now, we don't have the machines, and there's no possible way for us to get them.
I thought they said they needed software.
I'm
The
telling you right
software's-
now, I've talked to everybody in the world. Can we go ahead and explain all that? Sure. I've talked to Hart, I've talked to the vice president of Hart, I've talked to Penny, I've talked to Annette, there's been a call made to Lori. As of right now, the best I can determine, there was no, when they turned in the machines, they turned in the MVVs with that machine. They were all taken. And the reason being, to more explain, let me explain something. Those MVVs were not a required thing to be kept because they were already written over from the next election. The next election following that May, those only have to be saved for like 60 days. But they can be used in the next election. If you have a follow-up election, they reuse those MVVs on that election.
You're supposed to back up the data.
The county clerk is supposed to download and save all that information via whatever, and like Amy read a while ago, hard drives, thumb drives, external drives, printed copies, it doesn't matter. But it is the responsibility of the clerk's office to save the data. But as far as the MVVs, they were sent back with the machines, 19,000 pounds of it, that Hart, as soon as they took possession of it, they had it destroyed. They sent their tickets in, they have certified copies of when they destroyed it, how it was destroyed, and what the weights were.
Whatever medium you choose, you must ensure that you will have the hardware and or software needed.
And I 100% agree with what you were saying right there, and that's why I'm telling you exactly what all I found out.
Was it copied?
That was the best I could, in a meeting we had with Penny, you, the judge, Annette Stanley, and me, we were told that there was a copy.
Right.
I've been since told there is no copy. I have diligently
Then the law was
searched for
broken.
that.
Then
The law was broken.
And and I'm telling you right now, that might very well be true, but it's not. If the county clerk didn't keep that information, I was on that election. I mean, I was on the ballot in that particular election. So that's when I came into office. I wouldn't know anything about that election because I was actually on the ballot. But it is the responsibility, the best I can determine, the responsibility of the clerk's office to keep that data. It's not the responsibility of the commissioner's court.
No.
We go by what we're told, but the best I can find right now, there is no data saved.
Was the commissioner's court not alerted and cautioned please do not send back the data. You have to keep it.
We were told
Prior
that
to that day?
You gotta
No,
back
we were
up.
told the opposite
We were
by,
told the opposite. We
by
were
this
told
guy
here
right
that we
here.
had the stuff.
But y'all were cautioned, please don't send it back without copying the data or keeping the data.
You don't understand what we're saying. That data had already been rewritten over by the time we
I
ever
understand
got rid
that.
of it.
I
So
understand
that
that.
data was already gone. If the clerks didn't keep it prior to that, then it was already gone,
Yeah.
way back then.
the, Keith Ingram was that fellow's name.
Because I thought the same thing y'all thought. I thought as long as they kept the shoebox full of all them data cards, then we had everything. Because I got a hold of Hart, and they said, yeah, if you have data saved on a MBB,
Or a flash drive.
or they said, we
whatever.
will actually find one of the old machines, we'll let you buy that machine back, we'll even come down and watch, make sure you properly extract the information. I had all that set up, but I can't find the data saved anywhere from our clerk's office.
So advisories aren't ready by election officials, clearly. But regardless, we're still chasing the rabbit hole because we still have votes with no voters in early voting, and we have locations missing, and you can't prove that those votes were done. You can't prove it. You can't prove that they're legitimate, so how does that get resolved? What do you do?
So ultimately, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we learn from our mistakes and we make sure we don't do it again. Because
So the citizens, Judge, have been taxed with something that, as of right now, they did not, hold on, they did not vote for, as of it goes right now. It's not fair. At the very least, the citizens should be told the truth. They should be told the truth.
Now, but, and
They deserve that.
your statement comes with a may or may not. It-
Can you
it-
prove it otherwise,
Or,
Commissioner Watts?
or vice versa.
Exactly.
So, I
You
mean,
can't put
that's
either
the,
side.
that's the,
I mean, we can see that there's two polling locations.
that,
That's like, you can see that right there.
well, but Penny, again, emphasize what you said about those two polling locations.
Those polling locations have nothing to do with what's on that MBB. If they went from this poll pad, they checked them in, they went to that, what was that thing called? Judge's box, the controller, they got their 4-digit number with their precinct number on it, they went and pushed that. When they push that vote button, their vote is on that machine. It has nothing to do with what was on here.
Why were you worried about poll pads and how can you verify?
I am sorry that, wait a minute.
Where are the votes at, Penny?
Amy,
Where?
there's no back and forth.
I'm not gonna argue with you, but I can't do anything now, and they can't do anything about that data not being sent from here to there. I can't do anything. I can't do anything about it. If I could, I would. I've tried.
They can't prove that this bill passed, this proposition passed. That's right.
Well, the,
The thing is, we got more votes than voters, just on early voting and absentee,
yeah,
enough to overturn the election.
there are differing opinions on the facts set here.
This election should have never been certified.
Okay.
We need to be certified.
Well, we're in November 2023, and I don't even know the legal method to do that. But let's 2020, the 2020 election. I mean, the public, whoever's y'all that have brought this up and brought this, y'all can see what your options are to try to address that. From what I can tell, I don't think the court has any options available to it. Now, what we can do for your other concerns, the requests for records that haven't been either communicated to y'all or answered, we can work to make sure those are answered. And I guess at this point, well, I'll wait. I'm going to ask Penny to come up and give us a report from the November 2022 election. Commissioners, do y'all have any further questions on the 2020 stuff?
Well, just a statement, and that is, nobody wants a square, fair election any more than the people sitting at this table.
Absolutely.
Our lives revolve around it.
We didn't get it.
We didn't get it, and people are stuck paying the price for it, and you have 800 votes down there. You can go down there and take it for yourself. You have all the evidence. You gave us all the evidence, and still,
Well, there's-
unfortunately, you're denying it.
There's a lot of people that agree. I'm in agreement with you. As a voter, as a person in your precinct, I agree with what you're saying. It's just, I don't know of any remedy to go any further with it. This is something that really and truly should have been done probably, I don't know, January of 2021. And I don't know any legal way to fix it. I have done everything I can to help and work with y'all to try to move forward on this, because I don't disagree with y'all.
I don't
But it's
think-
nothing that I can come up with a magic bullet for.
Is a forensic audit, answer your question, can it be resolved with a forensic audit?
I don't believe so, because
No, because
there's
no data.
even
There's no
if-
data.
Well, at least to say it wasn't a
You
legit
can
election.
find out anything
Come to
you want
that
to find out,
conclusion.
but I don't know that there's any legal recourse in any of it right now.
I'm not aware, so a election contest or a petition on a measure has to be filed within 30 days of the election.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for anything other than people to tell the truth.
Was a
We
law
have
broken?
more
We'll
votes.
try.
I know,
That's
she
why-
was asked.
That's
I
why
was asked,
we had this
what
meeting
is there a
today,
legal
so
remedy, and
we
I'm not
understand.
aware of one at this particular point. Even if you did an audit, we found the Secretary of State for 2020 did Dallas, Tarrant, Collin, and
Austin.
Austin. I was like somewhere, I don't know. Collin did great. Houston was abysmal, and yet nothing can be done. We can learn from an audit, and that's about all you do is learn from an audit how to not make the same mistakes and how we stop. But there's nothing in code at this point that actually says if there is a finding in a forensic audit, then there shall be recourse, right?
Right.
And I don't know what to do about that. I did write down the question about canvassing. So I am gonna track that down. And I know, Joe, you've got my number. So, if you can, like, just ping me, I'll be in Austin on Monday. And I will track it down.
$260 million plus is a lot of money for people that it's not legitimate, and you have more votes than voters down there in your basement. And number two, even if you don't, I mean, for me, I think recalling it probably is a little extreme. All I've asked from this court is to tell the truth. The people deserve it. And number two, it can be rectified. You can, all of the government entities can find a way to rectify those people's taxes. They're being asked to pay for something that they didn't vote for. And surely you can weigh the balance out on the back end, on the taxes, because, you know, this court did
Yeah,
certify.
but Amy, I'm gonna have to interject that is only a suggestion. I mean, as adamant as you are about this is not legit, Penny would contend the absolute opposite of you.
Can she contend the 800 votes that are not counted for?
I'm just saying that they compiled a list that had to come from somewhere.
Correct, and again, the 800 votes that are sitting down there, that cannot be justified, verified, those are legit.
Proven one way or the other. I mean,
It
that's.
is proven, it's not logged, and they're not showing duplicates. So what happens there?
I don't understand.
Well, I mean, again, no, it's just two different viewpoints on that. They're saying that and show it, and the others are saying that they did when they had it.
As far as the poll pad information, the thing is there needs to be a checklist. Every morning you check to make sure that all the poll pads are connected to the main one.
Amen. I agree with you.
If they're disconnected at any time during the day, you need to know that. Make note of it, that it was turned off 11 and 12 or whatever. But there needs to be a checklist, it needs to be monitored.
I'd like to say to Annie, I think we all want the truth. That's why we called this meeting, why we had you here this morning, so we could understand the truth.
But
And
the
everyone
evidence is
here.
right down there in your basement, Mark. All it takes is turning to the cameras and going, guess what? There's 800 votes down in the basement that we can't justify. That's all that it takes. They deserve that. I mean, they deserve it. And you have statutes right there that's written in black and white. What is our Texas code for? Why do we have open records request handbooks? Why do we have Texas codes if we're not going to abide by them when it specifically says what you're required to do and what you're required to do with the ballots, and we just overlook it? But we will throw somebody in jail for littering on the street? That's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Okay, we've
I
got,
mean,
we're nearly 2 hours in, well over 30 minutes. I don't think you.
Mine's short.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Please say your name.
Okay, Brenda Rich, Wichita Falls, Texas. Lived here for over 60 years. I want to thank the court today for hearing we the people and for actually listening to all the details of what has been gathered here. I know that Annie and Joe have worked many, many hours for the audit that we have as a group done, and they represent many of us. So the one thing that I want to bring home is that there are more votes than voters. No matter how you look at the data, more votes than voters. Nobody can put that in my head and justify that that is okay. All right? And when, even if you take a portion of those voters that are more votes, okay, sitting out there, this proposition for a multi-million-dollar bond for the school did not pass. That's what that data says. So therefore, as a taxpayer, as one that is over 62 years old, owns property and pays school taxes, and voted no to this proposition, what is one of the solutions? One of the solutions is to exempt anyone over 60 that owns the property and exempt them from having to pay this. People that come up and say, I voted no in that. Let the ones that voted yes pay for that bond.
Amen.
But you know, Brenda, we have none whatsoever
Well, then we need to
jurisdiction
see
over the
how, sir.
Wichita Falls ISD. That's-
Well, then I will go to ISD, because this should have never been certified by any court, by any ISD or any board, if they would have looked at the numbers. And I know when I worked and there were contracts and there were things put in front of me, I never signed off on a budget. I never signed off on anything unless I read it and I understood it. And so that is a responsibility of this court, because you do certify elections.
Well, let me get clarification there. We certify the Wichita Falls ISD election?
no.
But no, they do
No.
not. The authority calling it does the canvassing. So they do the county ones, the
They
November,
hire the county to do the election.
but they don't certify it.
And
The ISD.
and that's through the county clerk's office.
And it is the ISD that does it, or in a primary, it's the parties that do it.
That's
They
convenient.
canvass.
That's
So we need
convenient.
to just come up with a whole
Isn't that convenient?
solution.
They certify their own election for their own bond?
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
convenient.
that's good, certifying the election for their own bond. So there has to be a solution, and you are our
I don't want you to.
representatives, every one of you. And you are the people that can come together and say, look, we have a discrepancy. We have a huge discrepancy that the bond did not pass. And if you look at that data, it's obvious. Data, I was told in the beginning of all this research and putting it together, I was told by a power at B in the county clerk's office, data does not lie. The data does not lie. You have seen the data, it's been represented to you, presented, and It come from the sources that hold that information. So therefore, I as a taxpayer do not want to pay for a school bond that I know that did not only pass this time, but did not pass originally the first time that it was propositioned. So, thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you. Thank you for letting me step up.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Carla,
Thank you.
you are also on the list.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for letting us present this information, and thank you to Joe and Amy because they have done some incredible work. I have a question first, and you might be able to answer this, Dion. Is it not the election board that has a fiduciary responsibility that this election is true and correct and certifiable? No?
No, the election board, you're talking about the county judge, the tax assessor collector, the county clerk, and both party chairs are on the election board. And they hire an EA, they can make certain decisions, but no, they have nothing to do with canvassing or
So
anything else.
legally, who is responsible for what we just presented?
With that, the authority, I'm not a lawyer, don't play on the TV. So it's not legal advice, but my understanding of statute is the authority who calls the election. So in a primary, it would be one of the parties. In a school board, it would be the ISD. In a city election, it's the city, right, for whatever. In a county election, it's the county commissioners.
But they're only given information that's given to them from whom? The county.
It depends on if they are contracting with the county, then yes.
So they can only go off the information that they were fed to
I would
begin with.
assume, yeah,
Yeah.
but I know as somebody who has worked in the party before,
Mhm.
we check the canvassing numbers when they're given to us from our county, from our EA. So I don't know what to say beyond that, but yes, you are correct, the numbers come from whoever they have contracted with to put on that particular election.
And everybody that signed that log or who's been down there creating ballots needs to be investigated. I didn't create no
Carla has
ballots,
the,
you know.
Carla has the floor.
Not you.
Okay,
That doesn't
so-
have to
And
do-
Ms. Jackson.
Has
And
nothing to
Amy.
do about the ballot board.
Carla has the floor, please.
Okay, so the other issue was, election law was broken on both state and federal by letting those machines go earlier than the deadline. Joe, I know, spoke up at the county commissioners meeting, and said, you can't do that. And everybody voted, not you, Jim, because you weren't here, but, unanimously in January to, get rid of them of 2022. As citizens, we knew we had until September 3rd, and we didn't even learn about the cast vote record. And I did request the cast vote record. I received, well, actually, my husband picked up the mail and came in and said, Carla, you got some explaining to do.
What does it
From
say?
the
So-
criminal district attorney's office. Okay, is it not on the civil side? Do you not have a civil sticker?
We have a criminal district attorney office that encompasses both the criminal and the civil side.
As a citizen, I saw this as intimidation. You know, not only did we have slow walking, extreme slow walking, and then corrupted data. We had a meeting back in March last year that 10 minutes in, Joe got a gut punch because, we gave you the wrong stuff. You know, we've been working on this for a very, very long time, and it's very, very frustrating. Yes, I'm frustrated about the taxes. I know we can't unscramble this egg, but the truth must come out. That election should have never been certified. And it's shameful. It's shameful that we don't have the information to find out everything for sure. It's just shameful. Anyway, I thank you for your service. I hope that going forward, we're gonna have policies and procedures in place and check and double check. And I'm gonna tell you something, there's a day of reckoning coming, okay? Because we're not the only county. We've been told by Ken Paxton's office that it's going to probably take 6 months for them to get to us with our complaints. Same thing with the Secretary of State, because this is a problem everywhere. And the machines have to go. They have to go. I was happy that you guys requested the ballot on demand, that Dion had, told us that, fixed a lot of things in Denton County. And then I was told that, I asked specifically at the demonstration when the decision was gonna be made. And again, it was made, like, they said they weren't gonna make it until the first week in December. It was made the Monday before Thanksgiving. So we didn't even get to finish all of our information and, so that we could come and talk and about the machine that we wanted. I mean, we didn't want a machine, but it was better. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Penny, do you mind coming up? So I think one thing that everybody on this court, I don't want to speak for everyone, but everybody on this court wants us to have elections that the public trusts, that are accurate, that we can get prompt answers on, and that we can be confident in.
That's all I want to.
I think that that's true of our partners in Austin at the legislature, which is why every session they make tweaks, and sometimes big, sometimes small, to election law. And in fact, one of the larger things that they did that we benefited from during one of the special sessions was requiring audits to be done after elections. Do you mind, because all the conversation here has been about November 2020, with a couple of exceptions on open records requests that I know that we can get those resolved and get the data to them on the 2022 ones. Do you mind talking to us about November 2022 election and the audit process that occurred?
Yes, sir, I'll tell you.
Okay.
We received from the Secretary of State to do a partial manual count. In the past, we have done a partial manual count only on absentee paper ballots. With the legislative, like you said, they have changed it to where we do 3 precincts that they assign us. We not only do mail early voting, now they choose 3 locations that we have to do the audit out of those as well. What we did is we started with the mail, we went through those, the 3 precincts that we had to count, we took out of, we put them in orders, and it was specific offices that, where was it all, hold on. It was Dan Patrick, that race, the Dan Patrick race. Yes. We had to count that. So we went through on the early voting ballots, pulled those precincts out, put those precincts. We counted each vote off of each ballot for each individual. There was, 5 of us in there doing it. We early voting finished, we went on, did the mail, did the early voting, went on to the election day. We did 3 locations, which was the Forum, Sykes Lake, and Mercy Church. We did the same thing with those 3 locations. When we were done, finally, the outcome of it was off of the machines and with the paper, Wichita County was perfectly fine on the count.
You say perfectly fine.
It was, we had, the only thing that we had that there was 4 difference in our total, and that we brought it down to either spoil ballots or human error, which we are human. So I think out of, what was there, almost 32,000 votes, that if we had 4 ballots that were either error or spoiled, I think the machines are doing their work. I don't see anything where the machines counted wrong. It doesn't show anything where they counted wrong, or it would not have balanced out with our total.
So you hand counted 32,000 ballots?
We only did 3 precincts, so we did 102, 302 and 410. Those were the 3 precincts that they assigned us to do. Actually, they assigned us to do 412, but with the redistricting, we don't have 412 anymore, so we did the next one up, which was 410. So every ballot that pertained to those 3 precincts, we pulled out, we counted, and then we put them back away. And until we started putting the ballots away on Monday, is that what it was in there? When we started putting ballots away because we can do it now, they were still in the order, in the precinct order from where we had counted them. And Judge Johnson and Commissioner Beecham were aware of what we were doing because they were looking in there and doing that S every time they walked by.
When did that happen? How soon was that after election day?
We did it. Let me see. It had to be. Because we weren't done with it.
So in the immediate aftermath?
Yes, it's not after, we have to do it after canvas, right?
I'm answering.
No, you're fine. I don't know dates.
I know,
like you do.
Okay.
Because I know I wanted it done before I left, and I was gone basically the whole month of December. So I wanted to make sure that it was done and gone before I ever left.
Okay. Questions about that? Okay. Thank you, Penny.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments on this or thoughts? I'll say a couple of things. This is, I've been in office 40 days now. Engaged citizens is a fundamental foundation of self-government, right? Dion and I have talked. There were changes made in legislation last session on elections because passionate and dedicated people like yourselves were doing the work behind it and finding stuff that got missed. And law changed because we needed to get better from it, the state. I've met with many of you in here, as have some of the other commissioners, multiple times. And some of the issues that we had on the 2020 election and since then revealed, because y'all brought it up, revealed that we needed to be better with processes. We needed to be better and more structural, not a good word for it, in how we approached making sure that anyone who was working the election was all coming from the same information and being able to read from the same playbook, the correct playbook. From someone who wasn't in office during any of the events that we're talking about, just an outsider's perspective, it looks to me like with the changing of the machines, with being able to go back and look at an actual paper ballot and match it up to what the count says, should help instill trust in election results, because we can go back and we can compare. One of the frustrating things, I think, for all of us, everybody in this room, is that the farther you get away from the event in question, the harder it's going to be to go back and make sure everything matches up. There is a reason that state law puts very close timelines on contesting elections to the date of the election, because the farther you get away from it, the harder it's going to be to match everything up in hindsight. And so We are a long way from November 2020. And will we ever be able to get that data to reconcile? I don't know. You can be dang sure we're going to try to find and comb through every square inch of that warehouse to try to make sure if we have that data that we can match it up. But ultimately, I feel I'm confident in the machines we have and in our elections right now. I think that the audit shows that. Now, and I'm also confident that people like Ms. Jackson and Mr. Gauthier are going to make sure they hold everybody's feet to the fire on every election going forward. And I think all of us welcome that, because an engaged citizenry can find stuff that sometimes we miss. And so I hope that y'all don't, I want y'all to leave here knowing we spent over 2 hours trying to hear it. Some of us have already been through most of this with you. But this Commissioner's Court wanted to put this on the agenda today so that they could ask questions and they could get a better understanding of what y'all were talking about. This doesn't have to be the last word on it. We want our elections to be trustworthy and get responses back promptly. And any places that we can make modifications or changes to make them better, we will. Sometimes that we may disagree on what that policy result is, whether it's paper ballots or ballot on demand or whatever. But we are here to serve y'all, and we want good results. And so with that, we'll move on to item number 2, which is just as exciting: review and discuss regular bills. Y'all are welcome to stay and watch all of this. You're also welcome to leave, and we won't.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Can we take a 2-second break, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to read.
Yep.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
We do get a break?
Yeah.
I don't know why they have
Yeah, very, remember, long.
Absolutely. Well, that 4 out of what, 32,000, that tickles me. That's standard that's way below standard deviation on that. So that's I'm glad that's where we're moving to, and it'll get better. We'll make it get better. Maybe we need to look at the whole situation. We absolutely where we need to be there. I don't know. I don't know what's out there and what's available. Is there anything better than what we're
And that's training.
Good thing we added all
Think
these
about our
things.
election, but they're more like me than they are your side.
Right.
We're not as good at that. It's, that make a difference. I mean, I'm good at having extra training. I think that's what we're talking
And somebody on hand with questions.
about. Absolutely.
I'm not near that stage yet. If I am, I'm gonna.
It's a learning experience.
Go pick him up here in a little bit.
We created the form that they needed. I thought we did.
When he
And
gets over
so, anyway.
Court is at recess for 5 minutes until 11:15.
potty break. Bunch of old men up there, so.
I resemble that remark.
Since you're younger than most of us.
recess at 11:17.
back there, Tommy.
Set aside you.
Come up here, have a seat.
He's just slowly
Barry, can I have power?
I'm trying that out here.
Sure.
Is this for the state, is this for the state or for the defendant?
Lost power.
Actually, Tommy, you have to sit up front as an elected official or department head.
Well, our election judge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Election board.
And here, I did what, didn't know I was on it.
I noticed you
I
walked.
got out in the lobby at the right
I went-
time.
Yeah,
I
you
went-
walked out before they introduced everybody. Yeah.
Man, I ain't as stupid as I look.
He stumbled out into the hall. Who?
Just to remind everyone, we're reviewing and just regular bills. We're on item
Oh,
two. Yeah,
Call
we're
it
on
back to
bills.
session.
Yeah,
We've never quit. It's been open the whole time.
No, we went to recess.
yeah, I recessed us when I brought us back.
Cheryl, on the top of these bills, actually, and I talked to you about some of those numbers you had showed us from our inventories. In those inventories, the equipment side of it's not, but do you have a way to reference some of those items that are on there?
The asset listing, is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
That I had sent out for, a lot of that is really old and it's coming over from TSG, and I might be able to pull some of that from that old system, but, and it may just have been the way that data converted, but there's a lot of old stuff still in the system. I know we did a bunch of cleanup last year, and Mickey really cleaned up a lot of his last year more than anybody, but we still have stuff on the books that is ridiculously old, and we know we don't have a $6.40 bag of quick concrete mix.
Right.
Like,
But
from
is-
1985. and
But
I
do you
remember having
think
to
that
enter
those capturing, I guess, maybe were the cost, is that something we do?
Well,
Would you list those things going forward? If
the
I
cost-
spent $1,000 on a road, you would list that on the
So if you're
inventory?
spending $1,000 on a road and it's maintenance and repairs, it's expensed. We don't put it on an asset list.
Okay.
It's really when we, on a road, it would be like we put in a brand new road or a
Oh,
brand
okay.
new culvert.
Okay.
Then that is something that goes
That
on the
helps.
asset list and is
So
depreciated.
Culvert would go on the asset?
Like when we initially put that in, yes, it was depending
if
on
I'm-
how the accounting rules were at that time, and they do change over time.
Like Freeburg, I put in we replaced a big culvert.
Yeah, we probably
This
should
last
have
year.
captured all of that.
It was just an expense, so it's a road expense.
We're gonna have to go back and look and see how the accounting rules determine what I have to do, whether I have to capitalize that or I can expense it. And that does change every year, it seems like. As far as your other assets, I don't capitalize it unless it's over over the capitalization policy that is set. Currently, it's $5,000. So if it's not over $5,000, then it's not gonna be on the asset list. But previously, it was determined by whatever our capitalization policy was, whatever the accounting standards were at the
Gotcha.
time, which is how we have all this junk on our system
Okay.
that we've got to get off.
She still has my 1990 Ford.
My culverts in Caulfield
Ford Crown Vics.
probably no longer applicable, since Caulfield no longer exists.
Exactly. I mean, some of these we just really truly have to clean up, and we're gonna do the best that we can every year until we can really do a full inventory audit. You know, it's obvious if you don't have the 1990 VCR, and if you do, I want to see that. And know if it works. I have some VHS tapes.
I could probably tell you where some are at.
Well, I know that the CDA has one that's a DVD VHS combo, and it did still work
There's
last
some
year.
out in the, behind the 50 there, that might still work.
But
We might use some of those Crown Vics for culverts in the future.
Yeah.
You never know. All about.
you know, get creative. But
But Cheryl, we got some of the same concerns Jeff's got, but Kenny's gonna clean off. I mean,
Yes.
some of it says furniture from 1994.
Right.
You know, our furniture is a hodgepodge. We got a bunch of your furniture when you got your remodel.
I know, and that is
We're
where
gonna
we
clean
have
up
to
what we
get
can clean up.
much,
That's
right, and that's just, you're gonna have to take, some of that, you're gonna have to take your best guess at it. Do we think we have it, do we don't think we have it? Let's be realistic, if it's from, you know, 1989, you probably don't have it. We've probably replaced it twice.
Yeah, there was
Are
a
you-
gateway computer.
Are you sure you don't want to
Yeah,
address the
mine
court?
too. It's
We left
specified
you out
gateway.
earlier. I know, but you sure you don't want to address the court with elections?
No.
Okay.
Do you want to leave this way?
I just want to say thank you, because mine looked really good.
That's right.
Annette, you can come this way if you need to.
You can come this way if you need to.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry,
smart lady.
no.
Is that
I gotta
retirement?
learn the process.
And Cheryl, there is a lot of Falls Funeral Home $6.99 charges. Are those cremations? Are there autopsy halls or
They're gonna be cremations. I haven't got there, but this cremation.
what
we've got.
drives that, Mark?
I asked that question a few weeks ago, and I'm not sure why we have so many.
Is it-
We've had a spike in cremations.
They did
We
say
did
that
have a spike.
around the holidays, we seem to have one, they said. I feel like this came up.
This is even abnormal for that. It's.
It's the COVID related stuff happening.
Can't handle that.
People-
Can you unmute Margaret?
We have more creation than we have deaths.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
We don't have more
He
cremations
told,
than deaths.
Brendan told me how to raise their
We don't
hand.
have more cremations.
That's when you got a problem.
And these numbers, Mickey, these numbers need to.
We only had 4 more than we had, yes, so.
We've had an abnormally high number of
It has been a
cremations.
lot.
Mary,
is that within the
acceptable range? A
Yeah.
report on,
We actually worked
Sandy
more
is-
deaths last month, or it seemed like, just boom, 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 that we had, we go,
Well, we
sometimes
had a-
had one a month, and
we've
then,
had,
I think we had 3 or 4 in 1 week.
We've had some
Well, between
odd-
the Kraken, is that the new
Kraken.
COVID, Kraken is the new strain.
Cracking?
Kraken, that's what they've named it.
Oh, you're being serious.
no, that's
That
it.
is the
No,
new strain of
we
COVID.
released a Kraken.
So between that and just the spike in the flu, I think that we have seen a higher increase in.
Wow.
Well, we've had odd ones too, where they found them fully decomposed and
Oh,
different.
nasty.
That's when you need.
I'm trying to get Margaret to speak up since she knows.
And not us.
Cheryl,
There's a lot of.
we have a core health, I'm guessing it's our annual payment to them.
It's not annually, it's monthly. We pay monthly to them, and it is split. One is between, hits the jail, and then they give us another bill that's for juvenile, and we do split that up.
Okay.
But it is a monthly
And the
bill.
court doesn't need to approve those because they did it's just a large number.
It is, it's not one that we have to put on the court before, because there's an existing contract. You've already agreed to that, so.
Okay.
Okay, sure, you need me to clarify something?
Yes. They have questions about the Falls Funeral Home and what it pertains to.
Yeah, all of those $6.99, every one of them are cremation, and there are a lot extra. And I think Mark kind of explained why. I mean, I don't know, it's one of those hard questions, why is everybody dying right now, I guess, but,
I wished I knew why. It just, I had the same question. I don't know why. But there are a lot, yeah.
I'm gonna guess that Cheryl is correct though, there's, I mean, especially with this weather around here, everybody's getting sick back and forth, and people with already having breathing problems with COVID and flu and all that.
Yeah, it's a bunch.
That's about a half a year's worth.
Is really.
That's a lot for a 1 month period. We've been running that high for a couple of months now.
Yeah. Y'all still looking through? It's fine if you are, just checking. Yes, hold on. It was 11:17. Good? I mean, still working?
I'm good. I had reviewed most of
Mark, are you
mine
good?
already.
Yeah, question for Brendan.
All right. Okay, moving on to item number 3, discuss and review jail maintenance projects and work orders. Chief?
Nothing major. We, knock on wood, the last couple of weeks have been just, you know, the minor everyday repairs and some PM, so.
Okay. Any questions from anyone on that one? Okay. Item number 4.
Just one statement real quick.
Yeah.
I know Ricky's been working with your guys on the air conditioner boards. We were able to get the boards that were going bad, you know, working, to relocate them where they will no longer short out because of water issues.
Yeah.
So that should be a resolve.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I know Rick was up on the.
So now is the filters, I think it's on the agenda upcoming for the first quarter, filters change.
And I've got a question for Will too, Jim. That yesterday in my JP study, Stacy's telling me that she received a few Odyssey input tickets from the sheriff's office, but the majority of tickets come by mail to her. Why would there be a difference?
Stacy.
At Judge Judy's office.
Because a lot of times we just mail them instead of driving them, just making a straight drive out, drop them off. Now, like here, we mail them to all the outlying precincts. And we just drop them off at the two here in person. Because most of the tickets are JP1, JP2. You know, if we have stuff out in the electric, it may just be a few tickets. So.
But does an officer have the ability to upload those to Odyssey?
No, it's a handwrite ticket. Press hard.
Gotcha.
4 copies.
Okay.
Old school.
Old school. Yeah. We don't have the technology to print them on site or anything.
Ricky and his guys were able to fix those boards themselves?
They were able to purchase the boards that we were told were gonna be 6 months out.
Oh, okay.
So they were able to get them themselves.
Through another vendor, I
With another
believe.
vendor,
Yeah.
they've reached out to have harnesses made in order to relocate them, so.
And actually, I think saved a little bit on them to
Quite
the other
a bit.
vendor.
I
Yeah.
don't remember what it did.
I don't remember the numbers, but it was cheaper than going through Trinity
So,
or Train.
yeah.
Train.
Ricky's a dual.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to item number 4. Receive status report on salaries and overtime.
I will tell you, since you're sitting down, keep your seat. We have 8 starting on Monday.
Whoa.
Yeah, 8.
That's huge.
Yes.
That'll bring us to how many deficient will we be
So
now?
should we get a count Monday afternoon?
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
But we're 32 short this morning. And we may have another 5 by the end of the month. ready to go.
Anything behind the change that you can tell? We'll just be thankful for
Just
it.
thankful,
and,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Good deal.
But your way, your numbers,
Well, I'll tell you, we have operated the jail. We've got 3 pods closed, so that's 3 bodies per shift we don't have to have. And there's been a few days we've operated well below minimum acceptance by the state. We just didn't have the bodies and people called in sick at the last minute.
right?
So when that happens, we're on the hook if the state were to show up.
Well, we just have to report the numbers, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I was told this week that Denton County was at 35% staffing.
Really?
That's Denton County,
Dude.
it's a huge population.
Are you obligated, Will, to have to report that, so?
No, it's
you
just,
have to
it's
fill
just
out-
part of our daily stuff we have to keep. We don't have to call the state and
Oh,
say.
okay, but they can look through
They
when
can
they
look through
come.
our records, yes. It's not a good practice to be in.
No.
We try not to do it ever, but
Right.
there's some days, right now, there's no, I mean, we pull everybody we can possibly pull.
Right.
You know, this time of year was sick, going around.
Yeah. I think we had already had 90 some odd call-ins. We had 36 call-ins for January, and we already had 90, I think, for this month. That's what I was told, if I remember the numbers right. It was an ungodly amount. And we have addressed our policies about calling in sick, and it's a percentage of time worked to time you use for sickness. We'd have to get Lisa to explain that, so if they do go over, if he's to try to nip in the bud some of those who are exceeding their, time. Because we still require, if you call in sick one day, we require them to get a doctor's note. They have to go to a doctor, they can't bring just a doc in the box or telecom, they have to go to a primary doctor and get a note, or they get written up for it, so. And then so many write-ups becomes, you lose your ARPA for that pay period. Certain things we try to do to balance it out and try to slow it down. And really just have a handful that really abuse it. So, but it has to be a positive, affects everybody.
And overtime now is nearly below 30% of total spend on, that's crazy.
Not sustainable. That's the problem.
We keep sustaining it. That's why, that really is exciting, Will, that
It is.
you got 8 coming on and then 5 more after that, that's
But in the back of my mind, I also know that we
sure.
aren't spending what we might need to spend here for other things, because we may need that money here at the end of the year, so.
Yeah, because it's only February.
Huh?
It's only February.
Yeah, give me gray hair for it's over with.
And I guess courthouse and all the offices closures for winter weather last week, that's not how's that gonna affect the numbers?
Let's just pay at regular time.
Just pay at regular time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have overtime,
Huh?
Yeah.
shouldn't have any overtime.
No, those areas won't have any overtime.
Joe,
But they typically don't anyway.
Overtime those days.
the jail's still gonna have some overtime.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
y'all are still very much open.
Yes.
I mean, at the courthouse.
But having 8 at one shot is probably the first time we've done that in a
Don't
year.
speak too soon, you're gonna jinx it.
I know.
questions.
No.
Mark? Y'all have anything you want to share for the good of the body?
Well, no, I just want to say that if for all of us that look at Facebook, Tom, you did an excellent job coming through a very tough time. Nobody has done anything but stay away from hitting on us of any nature. And you've already started the construction notification for people. Thank you very much for all of that, because if you didn't stay on top of it like you do, we'd hear from everybody.
Well, and again, I appreciate the court, everybody to some degree. I know everybody, y'all's phones rang with taxpayers, but listen, we extended the P&I up until, we put the P&I back on Monday out of all fairness, because I think that if either some or all of y'all know, it was what mail that was lucky enough to get out of Wichita Falls before the 31st, and I told this, I think Cheryl yesterday, we didn't know it till we got back on Thursday, but the Fort Worth Distribution Center in Fort Worth was closed for 3 days. So anything that was mailed at the last minute, which is a train load, as you already know, if they were lucky enough to get it to Fort Worth, it got to Fort Worth and got held hostage. So when the mail started coming in, it's coming in, and but anyway, far as treating the taxpayers, judge, commissioners fair, we have, Jeff, we hadn't had any blowback, everybody's been happy, and we did, Tony and Gene, all that bunch helped us with that too, so I mean, that's.
Everybody wanted to make sure what was fair,
Exactly.
and that goes all the way.
All the way.
Yeah.
The only thing we had Thursday and Friday, and we had one subject to come in, pay taxes, all in $1 bills. None of them are in origami.
Yeah.
Judge Gossam gave the last little origami money. One taxpayer paid little taxes in $2,300 in $1 bills, and then we had another taxpayer that hit us for $3,500 in $1 bills. And the thing is, $1 bills have got so much wear and tear on it. They can't count. They get hung up in your money machine, so you end up having either 2 deputies or 2 supervisors, and then you're trying to work half that money over there and half the money. It just throws things out.
What you said, you got forward to me.
Dirty money.
Yeah.
answer, was it?
You got forward to me times.
Well, I will tell you this, Barry, along the theme you just pitched out.
Yeah.
The $3,500 deal, supposedly he's a bartender.
Wow.
So but I don't know where that bar is located at. It could be, you know.
He saved,
You know,
he saved up to his $1
Yeah.
to
someplace that would have a lot of $1 bill type activity. other than my office.
Well, that's not interesting.
So does the construction come with a pole?
Yeah. Mark?
We put one in.
No, that's not.
There used to be a discotheque up on the second
Well,
floor.
you've got a 2-year-old
On
grandson.
that note, it is 11:40 and court is adjourned.